4.1.2 Film the police while you can. Filming police in America is an important form of activism right now, but this situation is temporary. Governments worldwide, including the American government, have or will shut this window the moment they think they can get away with it. Currently, there are several great organizations who are emphasizing the importance of filming the police, and they're training more and more people on how to safely do so. In America, these activists have given the state its most serious bloody nose of modern times. Right now, the U.S. government is stuck with old legal decisions and definitions that force it to not only allow the recording of police, but to actually protect those who are bold enough to do so. But as I said, that will rapidly change. Either courts will simply shift their legal protection away from those doing the filming, or what is more likely, some grand event will take place in the media and the full force of its propaganda wing will descend on the activists, demonizing them. In all likelihood, this will be some kind of big tragic event somehow caused by someone filming police, and most likely it will involve the deaths of police or perhaps even children. Of course, this event will be staged or, if real, perhaps entirely orchestrated by the state for the purpose of shifting public opinion towards condemning those who film police. An aspect of the solution to this terrible tragedy will be a federal-level government emphasis on police forces filming themselves. Vast amounts of federal funding will assure a solution to this horrible event. Maybe even a whole new department of federal employees will be hired to film the police for us. In reality, of course, government filming themselves only means more surveillance on the public and more police control of the actual recordings produced. Police will get better at producing fake videos, and the bulk of the public will buy the ruse without question. The two action items here are 1. Get as many activists filming police as possible while preparing those activists for the propaganda storm that will hit when the false flag event happens. 2. Prepare for the time to come when it will be illegal to film police. The filming must continue after it becomes illegal, but it will need to take on a more clandestine approach. If you just read that last paragraph and thought to yourself, if we know a false flag event is coming and will likely be staged or orchestrated, why not just expose it as fake when it happens? Fear not, friend, there is already an army of activists waiting with bated breath for each new false flag event so that they can be the one exposing its fraud. We are well represented in that field of battle. For more information, just do an internet search for the phrase crisis actor. However, the bulk of the public will believe the government lies no matter how poorly constructed and no matter how carefully debunked. What about filming after the state forbids it? The black market exists only because the white market has become dangerous or forbidden. The same is true with activism. We can't allow laws and thuggery to determine our path. We must do what must be done. 4-2 Fictional beings and their property. Join me in a thought exercise. The setup. We understand that according to consistent libertarian philosophy, every human has the exact same rights as every other human. So a child has the same right of property as an adult. Humans own themselves and have the right to own other property that they have rightfully come to possess. We believe that two people may engage in a voluntary transaction, transferring the rightful ownership of property from one party to the other, and no one else may rightfully interfere. Libertarians also believe that unowned property can rightfully be homesteaded. This is not an exhaustive explanation of libertarian property theory, but it is suitable for this thought experiment. Phase 1. With the above being the case, let us consider Sally, a child who owns a ball. Sally was given the ball by her mother, Betty, who purchased the ball from a market. The ownership of the ball has not been in question up to the time that Sally decided to give the ball to her imaginary friend, Canada. Sally imagines Canada as an intelligent, 9-foot-tall, half-zebra, half-ape creature wearing a clown outfit. Sally deeply believes in Canada, believes she has relinquished ownership, and believes she no longer owns the ball. It's Canada's ball, and Sally won't touch it. Question 1. Can the fictional creature Canada rightfully own the ball? Phase 2. Every aspect of the above still remains except Sally is joined in her fiction by Billy, her real-life neighbor who also believes in Canada. Question 2. Does the union of Sally and Billy and their belief in the fictional being Canada change ownership of the ball? Phase 3. Every aspect of the above still remains except that Sally's mother Betty also believes in Canada. Question 3. Does the authority of Betty, along with the union of Sally and Billy and their belief in the fictional being Canada, change the ownership of the ball? Phase 4. This phase has a dramatic change. Sally's mother Betty stole the money she used to buy the ball. She is an outstanding pickpocket, and over the course of a day of theft, she stole money from 73 people, totaling $418. Betty has no idea who those people were, and it's impossible to find out who they were or return their share of the stolen money. With that money, Betty purchased groceries, gasoline, the ball for Sally, and she ate lunch at a restaurant, tipping the waiter generously. Upon leaving the restaurant, Betty saw a homeless man picking through a trash can, so she gave the man $20. Every other aspect of the story remains the same. Sally gave the ball to Canada, while Billy and Betty both believe in Canada. Question 4. Who owns the ball? Let me rephrase the question. Can an unrealistic, fictional, non-human entity own property purchased with untraceable stolen money, and does Betty's charity affect the question of property ownership? If, at this point, you would argue that the fictional person Canada actually owns a ball, then our conversation would be over. I wouldn't bother attempting a debate someone who believes such outlandish fantasies. However, if you don't believe Canada can rightfully own property, why would you believe an equally ridiculous, unrealistic, fictional, non-human entity called the United States government can own property? But wait, there's more. Phase crazy. Canada is no longer named Canada. Canada is now named General Energy. Sally, Billy, and Betty believe they work for General Energy, or GE as they call it. The U.S. government has issued a slip of paper that declares GE a legal person. GE receives millions of dollars in stolen money, taxes, from the U.S. government every year in government contracts, and in return, Sally, Billy, and Betty make guns that GE sells to the U.S. government. The U.S. government then uses those guns to collect the taxes that it pays to GE for more guns. Betty, using the legal authority granted by the U.S. government, uses GE's money to buy a ball for GE. Question 5. Now who rightfully owns the ball? The consistent libertarian should always have the same answer. The ball is unowned property. Anyone may rightfully homestead it and do with it as they please because imaginary fictional beings can't own property in the real world. This principle is not changed by the number of people believing the fiction, nor by the authority of the people believing the fiction, nor by their acts of charity. And just because some old farts who call themselves justices, or any other gang of delusional people with made-up titles of glory use enforcer thugs to beat, cage, or kill anyone who disagrees, it doesn't change the reality of what is right and what is wrong. Nor is reality changed by the passage of time. So just because your father and his father before him believed in a 9-foot-tall, half-zebra, half-ape named Canada, that doesn't make it so. There are those who will attempt to argue that somehow the ball belongs to all of us. Those people believe in public property. They will use convoluted collectivist property right theories to show that since we were all robbed, then we all have ownership in the ball. To make this argument, you must abandon libertarian principles and largely logic itself. You have to create an imaginary world where you can theoretically own something without ever having seen it, touched it, or possibly even been aware of its existence. You would have to be able to own property that you can't possess or interact with in any way, and that you have no influence as to whether others may or may not interact with it. So then the question becomes, can you own a ball that you don't know exists and that someone else can play with or destroy at their will while you have no say in its destiny? If you believe so, I wonder, do you also have a special friend named Canada? At this point, I should address the property of corporations that are not in a crony or codependent relationship with governments. Let us say an old man and an old woman have a little shoe sales/repair shop and have been running this humble business for years. Lately, the neighborhood has changed, property values have skyrocketed, and their little niche business is expanding daily. They have had to hire employees, expand their shop, and have added a little tea shop in the building next door. For years, they have been running their business as a simple DBA, but now their accountant advises them that their business is at great risk if they don't form a corporation to protect it. Their actions to protect their business are morally very different from the actions of a corporation that is dependent upon its relationship with government. If there is or if there is not a magic paper distinguishing the difference between the mom-and-pop shoe store and some corporation that is the exclusive shoe supplier to the prison industrial complex, there is still a moral difference. The old man and the old woman are reacting to the threat of theft by government or government-assisted entities, whereas the other corporation is facilitating and profiting from that theft. Every moral anarchist should understand this difference in the same way that we understand that it is immoral to rob people to pay for roads, but it is not immoral to use that road once it is built. The difference being active robbery and a reaction to a robbery after the fact. To blame a victim for their reaction to a crime is shifting the responsibility away from the criminal and onto the victim. If I've done my job here, then we can agree that property in the possession of fictional beings is rightfully unowned, in spite of the fact that there are people willing to kill on command for that fictional being. So rightfully, all state property, remember the definition of the state, including the property of governments, their crony churches, their crony corporations, the banking cartels, the mainstream media, all of it is unowned and rightfully open for homesteading. Once homesteaded, the new owner may rightfully do with it as he or she pleases, so long as he or she doesn't initiate aggression on the rightfully owned property of another real person. An example could be a window of a government vehicle. I could homestead it and immediately decide I wanted to break it. Rightfully, I could do so without violating libertarian property rights and without violating the zero aggression principle. However, the odds are the window is protected by a violent nutjob that believes in Canada and will shoot me down like a rabid dog given the opportunity. Yes, he would be the aggressor, and yes, I could rightfully protect myself, but remember, wisdom provides the balance between what I can rightfully do and what I should do. Most freedom-loving activists should not engage in violence in support of liberty, even justifiable violence. Most people are not very well endowed to deal with the physical and mental challenges and the responsibilities that come with violence. However, the wise activist who is naturally suited for violence but is still dedicated to the zero aggression principle has a choice of the types of activism to be engaged in. Simple sabotage is such a wide field of activism that the friend of freedom can carefully and safely choose the level and type of simple sabotage that best suits their individual situation. On the other hand, ethics-based irregular warfare requires a high level of self-discipline coupled with a very special skill set. Not every gun owner, for example, or former military, in spite of what they may think, is suited for the challenges of the early stages of irregular warfare. Near the end of the life of the state, we may not have the luxury of choosing to be involved in war or not, but today, while we can plan, and cities have not yet become glowing ashen craters, it is critical that the actions of the irregular warriors be wise, carefully planned, and be executed with extreme caution and secrecy. More specific details on ethics-based irregular warfare and simple sabotage can be found in Sedition, Subversion and Sabotage, Field Manual Number 1, in the section titled Ethics-Based Irregular Warfare, and in the section titled Simple Sabotage.